You're on the Six Screens Telenetwork, earning the reputation of giving all the right ingredients, uninhibited, in exposing the hard, cold facts about the Watchtower Society.
And now, in Disney.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome in to our premiere program tonight, Heart to Heart, right here on the Six Screens Telenetwork. Angela and Dan Clark, they're on with us. They've got a great program. They do have a guest coming in tonight, so I'm going to cut you guys loose and let you do it.
All right, Rick. Hey, we just want to say hi to everybody out there on Facebook, YouTube, and in the suite and on the phone lines. We just want to thank you guys for all joining in. Hey, I got a very, very heavy heart tonight, and it just breaks me to even talk about it. You guys might already know about it, but Michael Moore, Elder Michael, we had him on our show a few months back. A couple of times. He was exposing the pedophilia within the Jehovah's Witnesses. It was a nest. It was a literal nest within the organization. It was bad news. I mean, I don't know what you'd call it. It was just a rat's nest of pedophilia. And he came forward and he exposed it. And then they started working on him. They started working on his family. They told his daughters and his son that the birds were going to pick out his eyeballs. And they started bastardizing his name. Eventually, he was almost homeless and was going through a rough time. A lot of people were talking to him. A lot of ex-JWs were talking to him. I was talking to him. Jeff Boulay, a lot of different people. Barbara Anderson was talking to him. She lives in the same town, Tullahoma, Tennessee. The congregation there was a den of pedophiles. Anyway, he exposed them. He brought it all out on the show. And sad to say, he took his life on Monday.
We're not off the air, but it's a tragedy. And he did live in his car for a good bit. It was pretty rough for him. And he was getting some encouragement, at least, somebody that was really helping him to feel better about everything. And we told him we were going to go see him here coming about less than a week from now. He was all excited about it. And the next day he killed himself, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I have my doubts, but maybe.
We're kind of wondering. There's an investigation going on. He did a interview with a news reporter. It hasn't been out yet. It's going to come out.
Sorry, guys.
It's serious. And I was going to see him in 2 weeks. He's in Georgia. I was going to go down there and see him. And I saw the news all over Facebook the other day. A lot of people are grieving, but he was a good guy. He left his 3 children and his wife, and Watchtower did their number on his head. And he actually saw a lady who was trying to help him. It was a counselor of some sort. And anyway, it just wasn't enough. And so anyway, go ahead.
I just was going to say too, is that one of the things that he had to struggle with, of course, when you do something that makes the Watchtower mad and they're intent on bringing you down, is to try to take his wife, as you can imagine, every kind of which way. And maybe even it had been working on her for a while anyway. So a lot of tragedy. And I feel like that he was pushed to the limit. I don't know if anybody could take it the way that he was having to take it. It was heavy duty, intense. So I know God gets it, and God bless him.
Yeah, he had an attack on him every which way, and they weren't going to let him loose. I mean, once he came out, they weren't going to let him loose. So they're digging right now for what's going on. But it's really sad. But the reason I wanted to do this show tonight with Dr. Dean is, that, the question is, to me, is who am I? Who's Dan Clark? Who's Angela? Who are all of us? Are we a Watchtower program? Watchtower wants us to believe that we are a program. That we march to their tune, that they're God's mediator for us. And here's the problem with this program. And I'm saying this from my heart because a man died this week. And they're dying all the time. We just don't hear about it. People are dying all the time, committing suicide in this organization. Because the Watchtower program sets us to self-destruct. Its program is to self-destruct. Just think about it. They take us away from our family, right? They take us away from our family. They take us away from our friends. They strip us. They destroy our reputation. They tell us we've gone back to the pigs, to the mire, you know?
You destroy your self-esteem.
Yeah, we leave there. We don't know how to function in the world. We don't have any tools. We're scared to death. We've been told everybody out there is Satan. They're wicked. So who are we? And so when you Watchtower, and I want to say this, Watchtower yanks the program. We don't get to dismantle it. There's no grace about it. Watchtower yanks the program out of us. Who the hell are we? When the program's gone, we don't know who we are. I don't know if you guys remember Oprah when she was interviewing those women years ago. That's what made her big, because the women got out of these abusive relationships, and she's like, who are you? And the women said, I don't know. I have no idea who I am. No idea. And so that's why I brought on Dr. Dean tonight. He wants to say, he goes into the explanation of who we are. And it's totally God. This is the way we're made. Is the Bible says, in a fear-inspiring way, we are wonderfully made. And I'm telling you, I didn't know how deep that was until I started talking to Dr. Dean. I was like, oh my God. I mean, our organs have a message. I mean, it's so weird. You know, our heart's associated with fear and all these things, you know, work together. Dean will explain it. But I'm like, oh my God. And if we knew some of this, if we knew this would be a tool. You know, most people can walk away from a religion, right? Most people can just walk away, go to another church. Not the Jehovah's Witnesses. You and me were set to self-destruct. I barely didn't make it through. Almost everyone I know made it through. They turned to alcohol. They turned to drugs. So many different things. Or they cult jump. They go into other cults, and it's a disaster because we don't have any tools. So that's why I wanted to bring on Dr. Dean tonight. And Angela's got a short bio that she was going to read on Dr. Dean. And his messages tonight is, who are you? And that's what he's going to bring out to everybody tonight.
So our guest tonight is, again, Dr. Dean G. Allen of Idaho. The Dr. Dean holds a PhD in clinical psychology focused on human consciousness that began in 1977 at Boise State University. His internship required for him to teach a BSU course on the psychology of consciousness, Dr. Dean's chosen field of study. At that time, and that was between 1976 and 1979, Dr. Dean also did his dissertation research with biofeedback, showing how individual subjects differ in their consciousness for perceiving and controlling their unconscious autonomic nervous system. He is also the author of a book called Know Thyself, which encompasses all of his life work, and he has a pamphlet booklet that goes kind of with the thing that he does when he does his thing. I'm going to call it his thing, called Decoding Your Body's Long Last Language. And he's got another small, I'm going to call it a book, but he calls it a conceptual business plan called The Consciousness Project, Learning to Live Consciously. He has discovered something quite unique. Dr. Dean lives in Caldwell with his wife, Christy. Welcome, Dr. Dean. Are you there? Just push *6, the little star button and 6.
Yes. Hello. Good. Thank you, Angela,
Hi there,
for
Dr.
the
Dean.
introduction. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah, we can hear you.
we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Great.
All right. We sounded pretty good there, Rick.
Sounding very good. We're glad, and thank you, Dr. Dean, for being patient. We're running a little overtime. I take the blame on that. It wasn't Angela and Dan's fault, but we ran a little overtime. But thank you, Doctor, for coming on tonight.
You're welcome.
So, Dean,
So
I got a question.
Sure.
We got a pandemic within the Watchtower organization. You know, when people come out of there, I mean, they're confused. They're lost. You know, they've been running on this. I'm a Jehovah's Witness. You know, they don't know who they are anymore. Yeah, that might be a good one. Yeah, what's God's plan?
Yeah, well, and what I found, my research, basically when I started my research, what I wanted to do is I wanted to scientifically connect the mind and the body. And that turned into a much bigger project than I saw at the time that I came up with that idea. But when I got into it, what I really realized is that the body is made up of 23 different organ, gland, energy systems. And each one of those systems has a very specific purpose, plan, function, issue, and trauma. And that's basically the language that we operate on. And the work that I do, the science, basically uses infrared to measure the life force energy flow between every organ and every other organ. So there's 23 organs and glands, and when you do the binomial permutations of how many two-level connections there are, there's 253. So there's 253 circuits connecting your life force to every other organ in your body. And each one of those organs, like I say, has a very specific purpose, plan, function, issue, and trauma. And so what I did and still do with this science is measure on the face 23 points that are the junction points for 3 or 4 specific organs in each point. And that decodes where all of the blockage is between the different organs. And each organ primarily has an emotional function. So it's not just the physical function, but what we find with the emotional function is it's a mirror image of the physical function. So, for example, the kidney. The kidney is a filter on the physical level, and it's also a filter on the emotional level. In other words, what do you do when you don't feel in alignment with something that's going on in your life? And the two choices are you either express it or suppress it. And if you suppress it, you can get by with that. But when you suppress it, it basically creates a counterbalance in the body. And when you accumulate that over time, it turns into aging. And that's what aging is all about, is accumulated drag on spirit life force energy flow. And what that creates is disease, disorder, dysfunction, degeneration, death, and dying. And notice they're all D words from drag on spirit life force energy flow. So the people that you're talking about, Dan, they, through programming and their life traumas, whatever it is, when we get too many trauma memories, we basically lose contact with our spirit. And when we do that, we're basically being driven by what I call the dragon, which is nothing more than a memory of trauma that causes a drag on life force, which is what gives us our energy, which gives us all of the spirit functions. The spirit's job is to fulfill that person's divine intent. The dragon's job is to survive life-threatening situations in the moment. And so those two forces are within every person. And depending on their history and their consciousness and many other things, that will determine how they function within those two forces. Does that make any sense to you?
Yeah, it sure does. Can I just mention it? I don't know why, but it hit me today when I was, doing some things. It hit me that Dr. David Hawkins, that, Dan and I like a lot, that he talks about this consciousness scale that has the line of 200 is the line of integrity, where you have a positive, everything above that is, positive life energy, I guess you'd say, life emotions and that kind of thing. 200 and above, it has a positive magnetic pull, so that your body is supported, and below the 200, I know you know this, Dean, but for the sake of the audience, I'm just going to say it. And below that is a negative flow of magnetic energy that actually is hurting the body. And so down below, that's going to be your anger, your bitterness, your resentment, your, depression, the sadness, the despair, the apathy, all of those emotions that are negative are dragging us down. And the other one,
Right.
200 and love, dragging us, pulling us up. So interesting that God made it that way. Anyway, I just thought it was interesting. It's a lot like that. And Dan thought of the Kabbalah, same kind of thing. There's many other kind of ways to look at it. Anyway, it's fascinating, I thought.
Well, yes, it is. And what I found in working with clients, and I worked with clients with this science for almost 30 years. And what I found is what empowers a person is when they become clear or have clarity for who they are and how they function energetically in terms of all of their organs and glands. And if you just look at whatever organ you have that you're having problems with, that will tell you a much bigger picture than what the physical issue is if you understand the language. And that's basically what I covered in my book, Know Thyself. And so that's been quite an experience, because when I went into this, I knew nothing about organs and glands and didn't see them as being particularly relevant. But after studying this for 30 years, why, it becomes extremely significant, and especially when you see multiple clients and you scan them and it tells you which organ is the problem that's got the most drag on it, and then you start questioning them about their life and what's going on. I found almost 100% alignment with that.
I know. I want to say this, Dean.
Sure.
I just want to say this. Dean did, scanned my face, and he went over. He put this little, a little pointer on the different things on my face. And when he wrote down below, it was like a chain. It was numbers. And he said, well, this one's having a drag on you, and this one's clear, and this one's good. And I'll tell you, when he gave me the diagnosis, it was exactly what was wrong with me. I was like, what the heck? I had no idea that there was this connection between organs, because this thing, the heat or whatever, senses the organ on the different point where he put it. And so he's like, right here, there's the drag. Is this something in your life right there? And I said, yes, that's what's going on, blah, blah, blah. It was so clear. And I thought, why isn't this technology or this tool, why isn't it out there? I just am like, everybody should know about this, because it is a tool. Because I think what we do is go through life with confusion. I think we go through life with fear. I think we go through life anxious because we don't know these different things, and they're a drag on us. Go ahead, Dean.
Well, there's a kind of a picture, I guess, would be of something that I've used for years, which is the 4 levels of spiritual development. And it was actually came from a book by Carlos Castaneda, and it was from Don Juan, who was an Indian medicine man, and he talks about the 4 enemies to the man of knowledge. And the first enemy is fear. And until you get ahead of that, it consumes everything. That's how powerful it is. And your friend that you were talking about, I'm sure that's exactly what happened. And of course, the more you follow that path, the deeper and darker it gets. So there really isn't any way out following it. You have to have whatever's necessary to get ahead of that. And usually what that comes down to is you have to feel safe and loved. And as soon as you feel safe and loved, then you can relax and figure out who you are. But if you're in a system that doesn't let you feel safe and loved, you're not going to have a good chance.
No, it makes me, it's not just a system like a religious system, like in this case, for this purpose of this show, it would be the religion that was dysfunctional. But for me, where I did not feel safe is in my relationship that I was with my husband. And so I had shut down and I didn't know myself anymore. I didn't even know what I liked to eat anymore. I didn't know where I wanted to go. I mean, I really just lost myself. And, you know, it was just kind of fascinating that that happened, that I lost myself. And I forgot where I was going to go with that, about that relationship. So it's relationships, it's belief systems. And I forgot where I was going to go with that, Dr.
Well,
B.
yours was in a relationship as opposed to a religious thing where you lost yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I lost myself in my religion too, for sure. But definitely with my relationship. So that's good. Anyway, I'll just leave it at that for right now.
Well, Dean, you're exactly right, because go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
You're exactly right, Dr. Dean, because our friend who passed, I know he didn't feel safe. And when you're rejected by your organization, and when you're told you're a pig that returns to the vomit, when you're told you're part of Satan's world again, when you told when you tell your kids your dad's going to get his eyes picked out.
Oh, I know what I was going to say, guys. What I was going to say was that when I finally did feel safe, it came about that I was able to feel safe because some people that God caused me to meet, because I cried out to him for help, like in a desperate plea. And literally within hours, I met these people. And because they made me feel safe, and that was what it took for me to be able to tell what was going on in my life so that I could actually get some help. But before that, I was in flat out denial about it. And it was literally killing me, my physical body and emotional, mentally, everything was just, I was dying. But once I got the help and I felt that support, I was able to relax enough to feel safe enough to tell somebody and ask for help. And I got the help, and then everything turned around like crazy, like super fast. So anyway, that's interesting that you said that you've got to feel safe before you can actually, you know, begin to get better. It's the truth, man. I experienced that personally. Anyway,
well,
I wish that Michael could have.
Each of the organs have a sequence of importance, and that the two organs that are about safety and love are the first two organs. In other words, they're the most important organs to fulfill in order to even be able to do anything beyond that. Because if you're in fear, you don't feel safe, and you don't feel love, you're in defense, and there's no points for defense. And that's why over time it degenerates a person, one organ at a time. And whatever your issues and traumas are will relate to a specific organ. And if you keep doing it and keep holding those patterns, eventually the drag on it is so bad that it creates, disease, disorder, dysfunction, degeneration, death, and dying. So those are all the D words from drag on, spirit, life, force, energy, flow.
Yeah. You know, we all kind of know that when we're, at least we all know that when we're under stress and living in a lot of fear, we all know that that's bad for our physical health. I think any more these days, we know that. And then it comes down to, you know, how do you go about getting the help that you need, and how do you go about discovering a little, I don't know, we tend to ignore those feelings and emotions that we have going on in us all the time because we've experienced them for so many years. It's just become a part of us. I guess, Dr. Dean, we have to take the time to, like, do a little, you know,
you have to get clear.
I guess, Dr. Dean, we have to take the time to, like, do a little, you know, you have to get clear. I guess, Dr. Dean, we have to take the time to, like, do a little, you know,
We're getting a lot of feedback here, Dean. I don't know how
we're having some trouble here with some sound. Dr. Dean, you still on there with us?
Yes, I'm still there.
Okay, just wondering where that sound was coming from. Well, it looks like
there was a person calling in.
Was there a person calling in wanting to say something? Go ahead if it was. Speak up, person. I guess not, but we'll see what happens.
Hi.
Hi. Who's this?
Hello,
Hello, go ahead.
this is Annabelle Vasquez.
Yeah. Well, talk to Dan and Angela.
Um,
They're the program hosts.
Yes, I'm watching it on YouTube on my TV, also on the phone. But I wanted to tell Dan and Angela I love their show, love it, watch it all the time. Dan's going to get a kick out of this one. When I was 15 years old, they were talking about the masturbation. Now I'm 64 right now, and so it was a big, it's in Holyoke, Massachusetts. And, it was like, I believe it was a Sunday, talk in the first hour. And suddenly there was a visiting person, I forgot what his name was. And the subject of masturbation came on. So meanwhile, I'm already want to leave this organization. So now he's telling us that we can't masturbate anymore. Now I'm 15 years old. So it's 5 brothers and 2 sisters and my mom. Suddenly I raised my hand, and you're not supposed to raise your hand at the time because, he's giving a lecture. So he's, giving a lecture about masturbation. This is the first time they're talking about it. And then he reads a scripture which made absolutely no sense. Now, being a person of bilingual and, English is my second language, it's a challenge for me, and I work so hard to, to manage the English language and really learn. So learning was always, something important to me. And my father was Roman Catholic and my mom was the Jehovah's Witness. So at the Sunday meeting, I raised my hand and he was looking at me like, put your hands down. I kept my hands up. And so suddenly he says, brother, what is your name? And I said, my name is Annabelle. And I said, look, if you see here, there's a brother there with a wife. There's another brother there with a wife. There's another brother there with a wife. All you guys are all married. Okay, so sexually, you guys could do whatever you want. What am I supposed to do when I'm 15 years old? Meanwhile, 300 Jehovah's Witnesses are like shocked. And I didn't give a shit because I was pissed. And I said, by the way, why is it that every time you guys come up with this new rules, the scriptures never match and you make it up as you go? I said, the scripture you just read about masturbation is bullshit. And then, oh my God, they took me to the bathroom and 4 of the servants started beating on me. And I was 15 years old because I had it. I had it. And this was like in the 70s, early 70s.
Wow.
And, I could tell you my whole life story and, how I got this fellowship. And that's why I got this fellowship, because I announced my opinion in front of all these people. And, if you knew my father, who was Roman Catholic, he tells you how it is. And he's not going, and you don't get embarrassed. What you need to say, you need to say it. And I did. And I didn't give a shit.
What is your name?
Well,
What is your name?
huh? Well, Annabelle Vasquez.
Annabelle. I want to do a show with you sometime here soon. Let's do a show because I think you got a lot of good stuff to say, and I think that's a good subject. Hey Dean, I want to ask Dean real quick, Annabelle. You hear the kind of trauma that we're having to deal with, Dr. Dean, with masturbation, getting disfellowshipped.
Fear.
Well, that's the reason why I got this fellowship, was because I was sick and tired of being scared. I mean, manipulated, hiding my sexuality.
I'm proud.
And so,
proud of you. I think
yeah,
that was a great argument. I think that was a great argument. Like you said, these guys. And what are you told by the elders when you can't get control of yourself? They say, go marry one of the sisters. You can't control your vessel. Go get married. Take it out on her. And so, like I said, all these guys are just, getting married so they could, perform their sexual, thing. I don't know many people in the Kingdom Hall who actually fell in love. I really don't. They were just, I know me for one. I was told just go marry one. They have all the same movable parts. But anyway, Annabelle, we got to carry on with the show here.
You know,
But
I know
thank
me
you
for
for
one.
commenting, okay?
So Mary one. Well, I want to tell you one more thing.
Okay.
The day I was going to get this fellowship, now I didn't have even a committee meeting with the elders. So my mom comes home. I'm getting ready to go to Kingdom Hall, and all my brothers and sisters are all getting ready. Suddenly, my mom comes up to me and says, "You're not going today." And I'm like, "What?" And she goes, "You're staying home. We're all going to go, and I'll talk to you about it when we get back." Well, I'm like happy for joy because I'm like, I can't stand that place. So I was celebrating. You know, took a joint out, smoked it, got partied out, you know, and then suddenly my mom came home, and she had actually allowed us to smoke marijuana in those days in the house. But she came home and she says, "You've been in this fellowship," and I'm like, "Oh, why?" I mean, you know, and that was it. They never brought it up, but I knew it was because I embarrassed that traveling overseer or whatever those days were, and that's all it was. And they didn't give me a committee meeting, nothing. It was right after I said that on the Sunday morning, and the next meeting, I was told to stay home, and you know, which I was happy to. And when she told me it was this fellowship, I just, you know, looked really sad and upset or whatever. But I went up into my room and I was dancing because I don't have to go anymore.
You know what I'm proud of you for, Annabelle? You got a voice. You got a voice at 15 years old. So there's people 60 years old don't have a voice. But you spoke up to them, and I thought you spoke from the heart. I thought you gave a reasonable argument, and you rejoiced at the same time, you know?
And you know what else, Dan? What he did was the right thing. I mean, even though the controlling freaks don't let you express yourself and discuss your pain, they will not have any discussion. And there was the same thing in the church that I was in, Worldwide Church of God, growing up. And you don't have argument. It's what we say and what we believe, and you don't argue and you don't complain and you just don't do that.
Removed.
Right, you will be removed. And so it's not worth it, right? But the
thing is, I would have been kicked out of the house because, believe me, I was shunned by 2 congregations. But being my father being Roman Catholic, there's no way you're going to throw me out of the house.
Yeah, thank God for your dad.
Well, Annabelle, we got to get back to the show.
We have a Dr.
I appreciate you sharing that. Thank you.
And by the way, tell them this is my first time calling. I want one of those books.
You got it. We'll tell Dean. We'll get you one. We'll get you one, Annabelle.
We're going to need to know more information about you and how we can get in touch with you somehow or the other. Maybe you could...
you could go to Life After Religion and Messenger, and you could leave me a message, and we'll connect up there. Life After Religion.
Is that possible?
Yes. I see your show all the time.
Okay. Just get us in touch with you, okay? And
thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you, Annabelle. Thank you.
Okay, no, thank you for listening. I really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
You take care, and I'll be watching you. I'm still watching you, so I'm dying to see the rest of the show.
All right,
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Dean, is there anything you can say about, thank you. Can you say anything about this that might be helpful in any way, Dr. Dean? Because, you know, what he's saying there is that after that, he was so glad dancing around, but what came after that was not just joy, happy joy, oh, yay, I don't have to go to church anymore, but he said he was rejected by 2 congregations. And obviously it bothers him that it happened, or he wouldn't come on tonight, sharing it. So, what can you say about it? Any thoughts?
Well, there's 2 motivations. One is fear, and the other is love. In other words, following what you love or following what you feel.
Dr. Dean, can you turn yourself up just a little bit anyhow? We can't hardly hear you right now.
You turn the volume up, you mean?
Yeah, there you go. You're better now. Better now.
Can you say that
Okay,
again?
good.
Yeah, good.
Well, I say there's 2 motivations, love and fear. And what that comes down to is following what you love or focusing on what you love or focusing on what you fear. And, of course, when the dragon is in control, that's what it tries to do, because it knows that if it can get you controlled by fear, then it can basically control you. And the formula that I found that'll help you get out of that is what we talked about earlier. You got to feel safe and you got to feel loved, and you got to feel that long enough that you can relax and start really seeing and understanding who you are and how you function, because that's the message that is related directly to health. Because ill health is when there's too much drag on your system and you're going backwards rather than forward. And that's what drag does. It's a pulling energy, and your spirit is a pushing energy. And whichever one's in control will be the one you follow.
Can you put, I mean, like you were discussing with me about how that, you know, it's an antagonism. So we have these antagonisms that are like these drag-ons, and that we have to learn how to, I guess, detach and to say no for once in our lives to the antagonist. Otherwise, they've got the control over us. And many of us, go ahead.
Yeah, well, what you're talking about is a spleen, and each organ, and this would be an example of one organ, the issue with the spleen is antagonism and how you deal with it. In other words, when you feel antagonism, do you reject it, or do you pretend that you don't feel it, or it's not real? And see, one way is a defensive way of dealing with that, and the other is offensive. One produces over time, because if you reject that which antagonizes you, you're going to end up with fewer rejections. And if you don't, you're going to please the antagonizer, and it's going to get worse. Because that's what happens. If you get antagonized and then you try and please them, don't you think that's going to increase the antagonistic behavior?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you know, Alex, this is
I don't know if you guys can still hear me.
Yes, is this Annabelle again?
Yeah, real quick. Because of the way that I was treated and the way that I was getting the negativity, I went to college and I got a double degree, one in psychology and one in theater, because I moved to New York City, in Brooklyn, and then I ended up, now I'm living in Buffalo, New York, where I got my degree at University of Buffalo in psychology and theater. And I did that because I thought that I wanted to get a degree before I died. And that's how much fear I had, because the type of fear that made me feel like I was going to die for everything I thought or did or whatever. And so I just became very rebellious on my own, because I was fighting this thing off, this demon that was holding on to me. Even though I left, it was still another personality that I needed to change. And it took about 40 years to set myself free.
Wow.
I mean, it's not easy. But we will get together and we'll talk about, because I have so many things to tell you.
That sounds great.
Well, I really appreciate it.
What do you think, Dr. Dean, about what he said there? Any thoughts?
Well, like you say, there's the two motivations, fear and love, and whichever one is programmed into your life will be the one you follow. So, and it seems to, like I say, I've done thousands of clients with this, and it's almost 100% with what you see, different organs that have like the spleen and the antagonism. There's a way to deal with it. You either deal with it offensively or defensively. If you're going to deal with it offensively and express rather than suppress, then you got to work on how you express so that you can do it clearly, quickly, and appropriately. Because if you don't, it'll backfire on you and it'll work against you. So that's what I think humans need is what I call performance training.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the example of the spleen was one of the ones in my strand of numbers that came up as an issue in my body, because he scanned my face too. And so
Mhm.
obviously that whole antagonism thing, everybody who's listening, was an issue for me. So the discussion with Dr. Dean has been, how do I deal with that? Even now that I've not completely overcome it, I have to, halfway there. I feel like I'm about halfway there, Dan.
Yeah.
I'm getting my voice, but not all the way. And I still allow these antagonisms. So I was thrilled when he said that, what you got to do is you've got to just pretty much, not allow the antagonism, even sometimes maybe even divorce that relationship or that job or that whatever, that church.
Well, or at least not accept it, see? Because as soon as you accept it, you're playing a different game. So you've got to show up, is what we call it, and be true to yourself. And once you do that, then what usually happens is people learn how to express their truth more clearly, more quickly, and more appropriately. And that's what wins.
But Dr. Dean, how would you accept it? I mean, if someone's antagonizing you, isn't that kind of like in the realm of abuse? And then how do you accept it in the proper way?
Well, you don't accept it. That's what the spleen is for, is to reject that which antagonizes you. Because if you accept it, then you're going to get more of it. It's just the way that behavioral programming works.
Gotcha. Well, who hasn't been abused in this church and antagonized? I'll tell you what.
Well, Dean, Dr. Dean, I was going to tell you the remedy. I just want to tell you this, the remedy for masturbation in Jehovah's Witnesses. I just got to speak to this. This is a big problem. Everybody has it, whether they admit it or not, right? Everybody has to deal with it. But here's the remedy that the Jehovah's Witnesses tell you if you have this so-called problem. Remedy one is if the eye is making you stumble, rip it out. Now they say, that's a figurative eye. Just stop looking twice. And then the other scripture, if you looked at it more than twice, you've already committed adultery. They program you to fail.
Yeah.
I was programmed like this other guy to fail. I can't live up to that. So what happens when I live up to that is as I'm in a drag, I have got a drag. I have got a burden. And the more I tell them, the more I go to the elders and tell them, the more they say, well, Brother Clark, you're just entertaining wrong thoughts. You got to get control of yourself, Brother Clark. And like this brother said, that programming lasts him 40 freaking years. 40 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen a lot of that, and but see, confusion is the primary problem. Your people are confused about who they are and how they function energetically, and as soon as they get clear, their life makes a lot more sense because they don't understand why they're getting this or why they're doing that or why they're feeling this. Well, it's just your organs and glands talking to you is all it is. But if you don't understand the language, there's no communication.
No. And you know what? I thought living in trauma and living in hell and living in defeatism was normal until it started to mess with me, until it started to take me under. And what happened, Dr. Dean, what happened to me was I got clear. Somebody handed me a tape, and it was this old man. He was about 90 years old, and he said, do you know God put that desire in you to become fruitful, to become many and fill the earth? Did you know? I'm going clear now, right? He said, did you know he put that in you? And I said, well, God, yeah, that's right. He did. And I want to fill the earth. So at some point in your life, you're going to get attracted to the opposite sex, and this desire is going to grow in you. And this thing's going to happen, and it's natural, and it's God. To the opposite sex, and this desire is going to grow in you. And this thing's going to happen, and it's natural, and it's God. To the opposite sex, and this desire is going to grow in you.
Rick, are you there?
whether they admit it or not, right? Everybody has to deal with it. But here's the remedy that the Jehovah's Witnesses tell you if you have this.
We're on replay right now.
Remedy. If the eye is making you stumble, rip it
We're
out.
on replay.
This is Annabelle Vasquez.
I'm here, Dan. Yeah, what we've got.
Yeah, somebody's
Sorry.
Okay, we should have that cleared up now.
Okay.
We have. I'm sorry for we got a lot of people calling in, and so there's been some. I don't know if they're trying to. I don't know about sabotaging, but there does seem to be some unusual activity going on here tonight. So sorry that's happening. Trying to watch it here.
No problem, Rick.
So we'll go back. I mean, things should be normal now. Is Dr. Dean still on there with us? Dr. Dean?
Yes, I think he is.
If not, hit *6.
Dr. Dean,
Hit *6, Dr. Dean.
Mhm.
Some people got muted there in the entourage of all of these people coming in. Dr. Dean, hit *6 once again. And that'll bring you on.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah, we can hear you now. Yeah, all
we can
set.
hear you.
So, sorry for the problems. We just had to get some spammers out of there. So you're all set. Good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rick.
Can you?
If anybody'd like to ask Dr. Dean any questions, feel free. If somebody's talking, just let them talk and then, mute in and out. But go ahead and ask Dr. Dean any questions you want. It's a pretty amazing thing, these organs, that they're actually a roadmap. If we understand them and understand what they're saying and how they work together and how they counteract each other, I mean, it's a pretty powerful thing to discover that, like Dr. Dean said, it's energy and clarity. When we get clarity, we have power. And that whole thing we were talking about, the masturbation, when I said that part, some of that is natural and it's meant to be, and God put the desire in us, and we're to become fruitful, many and fill the earth, and all that sort of thing. And so once I knew that, the guilt, and we're to become fruitful, many and fill the earth, and all that sort of thing.
This is Annabelle Vasquez.
The guilt, and we're to become fruitful, many and fill the earth, and all that sort of thing.
This is Annabelle Vasquez.
We got some.
Vasquez, I have to tell you, if you're going to come on the program, you've got to shut your phone off. You've got, I think you got the TV working in the background or something. Well, when you come on, what it's doing is it's creating echo. So either turn the TV down or go into the other room, but you can't be in the same room with the TV on, watching the program and talking on the phone. You can't do it. So one or the other, leave the room or shut the TV off and we can hear you better. Okay.
Thank you, Rick.
Yep.
Are you there, Dean?
Are you there, Dr. Dean?
Dr. Dean, hit *6 once again. We've got a number of callers coming in tonight that are creating some issues here. Here he is.
Now
okay.
can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Yep.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Let me turn my volume up. Nope. Let's see. I'm turning it up. Yeah, there we go. Can you hear me now?
Yep, we can hear you.
We can hear you. Good, Dean.
Yep, great.
Oh,
Do you want to talk about the what do you call that? The one end of the chain on the other end of the chain, one being the cause, or the other. Is that of any interest?
Well,
like
basically, what you find is that the subtle unconscious energy of specific organs will be the cause, and that sets up a pattern and creates an effect. And what really matters with each of the organs and glands is whether, because see, every organ has a spirit, life force, energy function, and a dragon function. The dragon function is for survival when you can't effectively use your spirit function. In other words, spirit functions take two. In other words, you've got to be dealing with a spirit in order to be most effective. But the main thing that people have to learn how to do, and they can do that with some very simple things, which I'll go over here in a minute, but you have to know who you're dealing with behaviorally. Are you dealing with the behaviors of the dragon, or are you dealing with the behaviors of the spirit? And what you have to do, you have to treat dragons like dragons and spirits like spirits. But you have to discern that clearly, quickly, and appropriately. So
you're meaning
the primary challenge. Go ahead.
And you're meaning like a godly spirit, like the Holy Spirit or something.
Absolutely. Every organ has a spirit function that it's trying to do. But if the spirit isn't stronger than the dragon will rule. And what makes the dragon strong is a history of trauma, memory, and confusion, so that you can't even understand what the game is.
Oh.
Wow. It's amazing we come out of there alive with all these programs and disorientation.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And but I think we're heading into a time when people are going to be more receptive to really understanding and finding out who they are and how they function.
Dan, Angela, could I go to Dr. Dean?
Yes. Okay, go ahead.
Dr. Dean, I took an anatomy and physiology class in University of Buffalo, and I was told that men have to ejaculate in order. It's a cleansing process for the genitals, because it avoids cancers, it avoids infections. People don't know that that even men can have periods, but in a different form than the woman. It's also a cleansing process.
Right.
And when you say "I love you" from the heart doesn't think. It's the mind. The heart is just an organ. It's the mind that gives the spirit in order for you to enjoy sexuality and ejaculation and imagination and all those things that we enjoy privately or publicly. What do you say about that?
Well, what you said is true, because what energizes every single organ, not just the 6 organs, but every organ, is when the energy is moving through it that organ is all about. So every organ has a very positive function. It also has a survival function that doesn't really have the same motive. The dragon function is always about control, because they don't trust anybody. The dragon's primary thing is they don't trust anybody about anything, anytime, ever. And without trust and worthy trust, you can't ever build up a healthy connection, I guess is the way to put it. And so consequently,
I'm sorry, doctor. Quick question. Are you talking about trusting another person or trusting yourself?
Actually, anyone, including yourself and the other person. Because when you don't trust, you're in fear. See, and that spins the energy backwards. And that's what it is that causes the problem, when the energy is going backwards rather than forward. And what makes it go forward is when you feel safe and loved. And what makes
Right,
you go
because
backwards when you feel unsafe and unloved?
Yeah, because one of the main problems I had was falling in love because I didn't know what love is. I didn't know what it was. I was scared to take any kind of relationship seriously. Ended up being sexually.
I'm confused. Forget that.
But I didn't know what love was until one day I started crying because I missed this person, and I was crying like like someone died, and then that's what I thought what love was, because the feeling I didn't understand it.
Right.
Well,
it's just one of those things where you're scared. You're scared. Now, as an ex-Jehovah's Witness, because everything was just so unloving, and because that's the way I was growing up, I didn't know how to love.
Well, remember, Jesus said something to the effect, you know them by their deeds or by their fruits. That is one of the truest statements that I've ever heard. And once you know the ways of the dragon and the ways of the spirit, it's very easy to see who you're dealing with. There's 2 words that describe the way of the spirit, which is love and light. And there's 5 words that describe the ways of the dragon, which is confusion, deception, manipulation, fear, and force. And those are the 5 powers of the dragon.
Right.
So once you know what those are associated with, it's very easy to see who you're dealing with and be able to treat them accordingly.
Doctor, do you have a book? Have you written a book?
Yeah, it's called Know Thyself, and it's on Amazon and also, well, what's the other one? Barnes and Noble.
Well, I get the Audible, so I'll definitely get the book. Know Thyself.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Know Thyself.
Dr. Dean? Yeah, Dean Allen.
Yes.
Deepak Chopra studied as a physician and then brought some Hinduism into his lectures now. And he made a brilliant point that your gut will never lie to you because it's made of the same stuff as your brain, but it doesn't rationalize. Many of us grew up at the Kingdom Hall, didn't trust our gut. We wanted to leave. We had maybe a nervous stomach issue or something, but we were told not to trust our gut.
Right. Yes. Well, any dragon would tell you that,
Mm-hmm. And also reading about narcissistic personality disorder, there's a book in the business section called Snakes in Suits. And the people running corporations tend to be that dragon, I think.
Right.
Great point.
Yeah.
Doctor, can I make one more statement?
Sure.
Have you ever heard of aesthetic realism?
I don't think so. No.
Yeah, it's a form of a higher thinking, because what you do as you progress at a higher educated or higher level of life, you actually affect the next person next to you, or the people you affect. And it's sort of like saying, look, you follow by example. But what it does, you encourage the person to reach higher, and you see what people don't see, and you're always in control. Like a photographer is control of his pictures, of how he feels. So the level of taking in photography at certain levels, your aesthetic realism empowers you to be better, to have more control. It's sort of like because whatever you do outside affects you health-wise inside.
Right. Very true.
Yeah.
Well, like you say, there's 2 completely different motivations, but the one is for survival, the other is for fulfillment. But you have to survive before you can fulfill. So there's the dilemma.
Right. Yeah, I had a Russian Jew help me with that. Most of my friends in New York were Jewish, I think I'm a Jewish Puerto Rican. But he taught me, and if it wasn't for him, I would have committed suicide a long time ago, because he helped me. So it really takes another person to help.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
It's a lot. Yes, that's really what therapy is all about.
Right.
So Dr. Dean, we've only just got about 10 more minutes, so I wanted to make sure that you're able to say everything that you want to say. Do you want to kind of say the last few things that are important to bring this all together?
Sure. Well, it's my trip has been in this field since the late 70s, and I have learned things that I couldn't even imagine before, and it really all comes down to the organs and glands and what each specific organ and gland's function, purpose, plan, issue, and trauma. Because once you know what the trauma is, you can see how that energy starts going backwards. And then it'll eventually manifest from a mental problem, which is really how you process whatever's happening to you, to an emotional problem, which is usually a suppression of whatever you're feeling. And then eventually it'll manifest as a physical problem with that organ. And I've seen that thousands of times at this point.
Yeah, because you guys, when he did my reading, and Dean, you can use me as an example.
Scanning.
Yeah, you did a scan on my face, not a reading, a scan on my face. And so it produced this long string of numbers, and we dealt with the two core issues in the middle, and then started focusing on the cause and then the effect, the cause and the effect.
Right.
And just basically it was how I was dealing with all these things. But first of all, I needed to understand, what are these organs that are being affected in my body? And then that produced, these are the issues I'm dealing with in my life. These have been my life issues. Here's what I still need to overcome. Here's what I can do about it. Like, for example, the antagonism, the ways that I'm antagonized, and then not dealing with it because I don't have my voice well enough, or I'm not standing up for myself. And then at that point, I've got a choice: either deal with it and do something about it, or just keep on letting people, control me and antagonize me, and I just take a back seat and shrink, which is basically what happened with Jehovah's Witness faith, because they beat you up and antagonize you, and then you're afraid of being excommunicated, so you take a back seat and you shut up and you clam up and you shut up and you take it and take it and take it.
Right.
And what Dr. Dean showed me is, if you keep on taking it, and you don't step up and say no, and basically absolutely say no to that antagonism, reject it, then you will continue to get sicker and sicker, and your organ will fail, and it'll just get worse from there. So we have choices, but until you know what those basic issues are, and your organs tell you what your issues are, oddly, then you can start working on it and be shown what to do about it, and it's so cool. Anyway, go ahead.
Right. So anyone with any organ problems would probably find my book very interesting, because you can go in there and find whatever organ it is, and it'll tell you what the physical function is, what the emotional function is, what the mental processing is like, and what the spirit life force of that organ is really there to do, and how it's designed to function.
I love that.
Dean, that's a simple statement, but that statement is so powerful.
Yeah.
Because it just shows, in a fear-inspiring way, we're wonderfully made, and that our organs have that much intelligence, and that you can, like you said, you can look at an organ, and here's how it's working to keep us alive, and here's what's hindering it, is what's taking us down and destroying us. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's
right.
really powerful.
And it'll always come down to programming.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you're talking about with religion, because that's, that's some pretty heavy programming sometimes.
Yes, Dean. And I was going to say something about Jehovah's Witness religion. One of the major things the Watchtower does, and I'm just going to kind of come off of what Pixie was saying a minute ago about Deepak Chopra, but the Watchtower's version was, Pixie said, don't, follow your gut. It doesn't reason. You can kind of trust that. Well, Watchtower, what they do is they push you out of your heart. And I want to say this about the heart. When a cat or a dog, when a dog runs up to you, is it your mind that feels, or is it your heart? When a cat jumps up on your leg and starts to purr, is it your mind that says the cat's purring? Oh, wow, the cat's purring. That's what the mind does. But the heart feels the purr. The heart embraces the purr. The heart falls in love. And I just feel like I want to say this, and nobody has to agree, but I think you can trust your heart more than you can trust your head.
And Dr. Greg Braden says that your heart has more of a brain in it, more powerful, more magnetic than your mind, actually. And,
Yep. And I want to say this too. They also said, the Watchtower says this: the heart is treacherous and desperate. Who can know it? Yeah, don't trust your heart. And I'll tell you why they don't want you to trust your heart. Because the heart is unlimited. The heart is a universe. The heart falls in love. The heart can love the unlovable. And see, there was a new law. Jesus' law said, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. You cannot do that with a religiosity head that's waiting for everybody to die. And that's what religion was when I was in there. We couldn't wait for everybody to die. The sooner the better. Armageddon, come. Kill all these people. Kill, genocide. And so Watchtower said, now don't trust your heart, because your heart says, I don't like this. I don't like this. I feel like I want to go over and love that other guy over there, that other girl, or whatever. I want to go give him a hug. And Watchtower says, no, you walk on the other side of the street, because you're one of the saved. You're one of the ones that are special. And so Watchtower, think about this, guys. Watchtower tries to drive you into your head and keep you in your head. And I'll tell you why. Yeah. Because your mind's already programmed. The heart is treacherous and desperate, brothers. Don't go there. Stay in your head. And where we live and where the program is.
He's giving you your program.
And so they drum up this fear, this dope. It's really dope. They give you dopamine. Yeah. Fear, doubt, and worry, and hey, oh my God, the world's ending. The king of the south and the north. They drum up this fear. Dope. It's really dope. They give you dopamine. Yeah. Fear, doubt, and worry. Hey, anyway, oh my God, the recording is going crazy. They drum up this fear. Dope. It's really dope. Good job, they give you dopamine. Fear, doubt, and worry. Anyway.
Dan, when you have a chance, I want to say something.
Okay, how are we doing, Rick? We got a few minutes left.
We got about 6 minutes left. So go ahead. It's very fascinating.
Real quick, Dan. The heart doesn't think. What happens when we think, it comes to our mind. When we have an orgasm, it comes to our mind. That's why when we masturbate, we look at pictures for men, and women come through emotions. But emotions goes through your head. That's where your thinking process is. But the heart doesn't think. The heart actually...
that's not actually accurate.
Well, hold on. I didn't say it thought in that regard. I said when a cat jumps on your damn leg, you feel the purr. You don't feel the purr with your brain. You feel the purr with your heart. And when you fall in love, you don't think yourself in love. You feel it.
Right.
You feel the love.
And Dr. Greg Braden is a scientist, and he says that our heart has a brain.
It does. There's
The
heart
other
math. There's a lot of things.
It does?
The others do. All electric.
The heart has a brain.
Did you know
Right,
that?
exactly. Okay, I can see that point, because we're liquid and electric, and the heart is the electric. That's why we eat bananas, for potassium, that develops electric. But the thing is that the heart, yes, by electricity, it does. But the mind is the one that has the passion, the love, the sight. And then the heart just reacts to what we think or see or want or need or taste or whatever. It goes through our mind, but our hearts don't think. If the heart came in as an expression, never as a literal organ that thinks.
The true
It's always
secret
been an
they
expression.
didn't tell you. The true secret they didn't tell you. You're electric, all of you. And the sun's on it all the time, and all the body systems and systems of the heart, mind, body, soul gut, spirit, nervous system, dancing. It's all one.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
One,
And that's what
and it's
Dean's
electric.
talking about tonight.
To go get a pacemaker, the physicist doctor, he's a physicist and a doctor that puts the pacemaker in. So it's electric. We're all one. The body is
Well, look,
one organ.
That's great.
If I want to have an orgasm, I need both.
We don't want
Yeah,
to
and you're on to something there, because when you do that, it's actually a little personal, private tune-up.
Right, exactly. That's why guys fall
That's
asleep.
what Dean was talking about tonight. Dean was saying, see, this is why this is important. Dean was saying that the organs are even intelligent. There's a positive and negative to it. I mean, and he can measure it. He can actually measure it with a machine. And I just think that's mind-boggling. And like
now, I have a question. Since most of us aren't as young as we'd like to be, and even if we drink our water and take our walk and eat our salad, what would be the one thing, even if we take away all the bad stuff, what would be the one thing that we should add back that maybe your listeners don't know about? That's my question at the age of soon to be 65.
Oh, 65 is, you're still a baby.
I can tell you what
Dr. Dean. Dr. Dean, can you answer that?
What was that question?
Yeah. Well, the main thing, and I've told clients this for years, that they have to learn to do and make it a habit, is breathing. Long,
very good,
slow, deep, rhythmic breath. And no matter what's going on, if you can take control of your breathing, it'll smooth everything out over time if you'll just keep doing it. Because when you do that, it sets a rhythm in your body that whatever's happening will eventually align with. And that takes care of a lot of things.
Thank you. Anything else? Any other tips?
Well, for the second one that I'd bring up is understand who you are and what each organ is and what each feeling is associated, what organ is associated with, and what the spirit life force function of that organ is, so that you can see what the game is that you're forced to play every single day, even if you don't have any idea how the game works.
Well, I've dropped out of the game. I'm drinking my water and taking my stroll, so I just want to be at my optimum.
Yes, well, clarity and breathing will help you a lot.
Thank you.
Yes, and understanding these how the organs are functioning in your life and what they're trying to tell you. It's like, you know what? We all don't have the mind-body connection. We've talked about this before, but it's important. I'm realizing from doing this whole thing I did with Dr. Dean for 2 hours, just how mind-blowing it is, how God has given us all the secrets that we could possibly ever want to know if we would just take the time to get to know ourselves. And one of the things I did to get to know myself was to do this little study on my body and what's going on with it, and understanding it through the way that my organs were letting it be known that there was a problem. And I loved it. I mean, I want to know myself, and that's key to getting all the way well. I want to be completely whole.
And when we come out of these religions, I just want to say this. When we come out of a religion, when we come out of a cult like we did, we've got to re-educate ourselves. We can't stay. I mean, when we come out, we are lost. We are confused. We're scared. We've lost our family. We've been abandoned. And we've got to start learning again. We've got to start reprogramming this temple, because the program has been pulled. Watchtower makes sure that whatever they have given you, your friends, everything that they've given you is taken back. They're what they call Indian givers. Not putting down Indians, it's just a saying. But what they've given you, they yank back, and they take your family, anything they can get, even bastardizing your name and who you are and your reputation. And so what Dean's talking about, what we're talking about tonight, is just a tool. It's just one more tool. There's a lot of tools out there. There's personality tests that we can take, Myers-Briggs, Enneagram. There's all these tests. Who am I? We gotta start looking at that. Who am I outside of this religion? It's self-discovery. We weren't meant to be a religious program. 5 million, 10 million people marching around all saying the same thing. Yeah, I believe in Jehovah. The end's going to come. Yeah, that's what we weren't meant to be. We were made in God's image and likeness. We were made good and very good. As Dean brought out, all the organs, everything's trying to speak to us, waiting for us to acknowledge, to learn, to know. And in that, like Dr. Dean says, we get clarity. And if we get clarity, that's power. And if we get power, we can move forward. And we can move forward with certainty. And we can create things. We're co-creators with God. If we're made in that image and likeness, and we come into that union, that oneness, anything is possible. The Bible says everything I have is yours. So it's important that to know thyself. Amen. And that's all I want to say, Dean. I just want to thank you tonight, Dr. Dean, for coming on. Sorry, I call you Dean sometimes. I know it's Dr. Dean.
Yeah, that's all right.
You get that big PhD, man. Tell you.
Perhaps there's one thing that would be a good thing to finish this up with tonight, and it comes from Scott Peck, and he spent his entire career at Harvard as a focus on spirituality. And what he ended up with is this, what he called the 4 levels of spiritual development. And he named them, and that's what I'm going to go over with you. The first level of spiritual development is what he called chaotic antisocial. And that's when your life is in chaos and you can't get along with anybody. And from there, religion is a step up, because it gives you some basic things to understand and follow. And but what happens over time is people start looking at the whole thing, and eventually the really strong spirits reach the point where they say, this is the most hypocritical bunch of people I've ever seen in my life. And at that point, they develop to the 3rd level, and you're never going to guess what the 3rd level is. The 3rd level of spiritual development is scientific atheistic. And what that means is you give up on belief systems. And religion, of course, is a lot belief system. But see, what it is, it's a path that gets you back to being connected with yourself or your true spirit. And in order to do that, you have to give up belief systems and tune in to your truth and feel safe and love doing that. And when you do that over time, it really evolves you. So what happens with the atheists is the strong spirits who become atheists, I should say, is that they reach a point where they say, well, maybe that religion wasn't what I had hoped it would be, but there's something out there that connects things, and there's more to it than what I thought there was. And those people evolve to the 4th level of spiritual development, and that's what Scott Peck called the mystical metaphysical. And that's when you realize all is one. And as soon as you see that, you see everything. We live in a quantum energy soup that involves the entire universe. And so we're not really separate from anybody. We're all connected. Now, whether or not you're conscious enough to be aware of that connection is really the issue.
All right, Dean. Well, I think that's why Jesus said, love your neighbors yourself. But I don't know if you can love them when you're wishing they're dead.
Jesus said that there are many mansions. I think some of those mansions, rather than being up and down, some of them are right next door to us.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. Well, hey, we got another show starting tonight with the gals and Delon and Jimmy Bell's coming on. So Hey, Dean, thank you so
Dr.
much.
Dean.
Thank you, Dr.
You're
Dean.
wonderful.
You were amazing.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
That was a great guest.
Thank you.
Thank
Good.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dean.
Well, there you go.
Yes,
Thank
you're
you
welcome.
to
Good night.
Dr. Dean. Thank you for all you guys that commented. And we're now going to after the storm with DeLon and with Gail, and they got Jimmy Bell coming on. So by all means, stay with us now. If you're listening in right now on YouTube, we're going to disconnect YouTube here, but stay with us. Tune in about 2 or 3 minutes. The other YouTube feed will be up, and you'll be able to watch it on YouTube as well. So we're thankful that we had so many people listening in tonight to the 6 screens, but we have got a great program coming up next. We're going to end the broadcast, but come right back in. We'll be back on YouTube in 2 minutes. Stay with us.